it gives you an option to leave a meeting if you want to once that thing shows up.
Oh, that's right.
Quarterly.
All right. Hi, Catherine. Sorry, I was just distracted trying to find a screen for myself to.
Once that recording is in session,
Oh, right.
it
Yeah,
gives
don't
you an
run
option to
away,
leave the
please.
meeting.
Ichimasu.
I'm like, what?
Don't show my face.
Yes. So I'd like to introduce our guests. I'll just tell you a little bit about them. I think everybody knows, but as a reminder, Kinsella Valies is an assistant professor at Jissen Women's University in Tokyo, Japan. Kinsella received her master's in applied linguistics from the University of Limerick. During her 20 years as an educator, she has lived and taught in 5 countries. Research interests include formative assessment, TBLT, and peer review. Outside of academia, Kinsella's love for film and music drives her to complete the odd short film project and attend epic film soundtrack concerts. She currently serves as a JALT Writers Peer Support Group Chair. So maybe we can give a little applause or wave. Thank you. And Lisa M. Hunsberger teaches full-time at Kyushu Tangyo University in Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan. She has an MA in linguistics and has been an educator for over 15 years. Lisa has taught English and linguistics courses in Jamaica and France, and she has taught every age in Japan, from kindergartners to retirees. Lisa is active in language teaching spaces in Japan and Korea, and she is known for her presentation design. And I met them both in Japan because I'm so lucky and fortunate. Right now, I am acting co-president of the Kotifel Seoul chapter, and I've worn many different hats. And I'm also the co-founder of the Women and Gender Equality Special Interest Group, which this event is also co-sponsored by the Busan chapter. And we do have Busan chapter leaders, Casey, I see, our vice president, Annika Samzinga, Catherine, who's also an executive member. I think that
Annika's like,
yeah, there she is. Okay. So we warmly welcome you to this highly anticipated event. And I'd like to begin our interview questions. So the first question that I just want to ask, I will ask Kinsella to first answer, and then Lisa, is to simply tell us more about the research study that you have been working on. For example, how it came about, how you developed it, and when we can expect to see it. So take it away, Kinsella.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Yes, 2021. I saw it's been well, an announcement for a very interesting book project on the TESOL members thread. It was for a book called Dialogue in Action: Identity, Language, and Power. So I was like, oh, that sounds really good. And I contacted a fellow Caribbean academic and asked, well, if he would like to collaborate. And he put me in touch with Lisa at that point. And in May of 2021, we submitted our proposal named Maintaining Our Intersectional Identity as Bi or Multilingual Black Caribbean Women in Higher Education in Japan. And that was a mouthful back then, as it is now. So we are very, very lucky to have very involved and caring editors. And so they asked us to expand on our ideas. And so we have come to a new, more inclusive and expanded topic. And so our chapter is now named Black Women's Ibasho, Creating a Space of Belonging in Japan. Yeah, it's originally based on open dialogue between Lisa and I, and that's how the project actually got going before we expanded. And I would like to ask Lisa if you would like to add your thoughts to that.
Sure. So when Kinsella reached out to me, I was really excited because there is unfortunately not a lot of work that has been published on the experiences of Black women in Japan, probably in Asia. I know we had a bit of difficulty finding a lot. And so we were really happy and excited to add to what already existed. And we're hoping that there will be more studies like these in the future. And I really want to give a shout out to Dr. Averill Hay Matsui, who is in the audience, who's in the Zoom meeting right now, because she started a very special Facebook group many years ago called the Black Women in Japan Facebook group. And we sent I created an ad, yeah, Averill, and I put a call in the group thinking that, it would be great if we could get 1 or 2 participants. I won't give away the wins until we get to that question just yet. But I put the call in the group on behalf of Kinsella and myself, and we had very wonderful experiences shared with us by a number of individuals, women and non-binary individuals living and working in Japan. And as for when it's going to be published, that will be at the end of this year. We've gotten the official word that we will be expanding. That we will be expecting to have this completed by then. So we're working on the final edits right now from the publishers.
Thank you. Oh, what a wonderful opportunity. And I have to commend you for noticing a gap in the research that you wanted to see. And so you just went for it to create it yourself. And it's really interesting how organically connecting with people of like minds, we can evolve into such amazing projects. So something to keep in mind. The second question that I wanted to ask the both of you, and I will ask Lisa to address first, followed by Kinsella. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in this project?
So for me,
go
it was when we were asked to open up our study to include more participants. I was worried about how many persons would want to be a part of this study, because when it was just Kinsella and I sharing our stories, we are 2 Black women. We're from the Caribbean, yes, but we are from 2 completely different islands. We have different languages, we have different cultures, we have different experiences. And so we really wanted to highlight the differences that exist within this region. Opening it up, I know I was worried about how many other persons here would want to open up and share what has been happening with them here in Japan. And I'm sure other researchers know what that feels like when you have to send out a call for participants and not really knowing whether you'll have 1 person or 10 actually respond, if any. And so for me, that was my biggest challenge. How about you, Kinsella?
Yes, to tie into that, our participants, thank you so much. I'd like to say that in front of everyone, thank you so much for participating and sharing your experiences and journeys, because truly it was a privilege to hear different voices and actually be allowed to share that with others. Now, there were so many stories that we couldn't include everything, and though we tried really hard to do that, and to basically have every participant represented within our chapter, our publication. But yes, so to rephrase, yeah, the word limit was a real issue, because we wanted so much to share everything, and especially the reflections from all of the participants upon their own journeys, not just what happened, but how they feel about it, and what growth, yes, has come from that. In addition, if I might say, it was interesting how to we were thinking, Lisa and I, how to get everybody to feel comfortable enough with us, with the group, to do just that, to share the journeys. And so we worked with small groups and individual interviews and such, of course. But it's really a matter of the trust that we received, and we are really thankful for that.
Yes, building up trust in interviews, it's vital. But it's wonderful to hear that a problem you had was a voluminous amount of material and making those tough decisions about editing and word counts and space. Maybe we'll see a volume 2 from you in the future.
We hope so.
We hope so.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. And the next question that I want to ask you was, what were some of the biggest wins in this project? And this time, Kinsella, if you don't mind answering that first, followed by Lisa. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, and actually already mentioned one of the challenges, which was to really do our best to create an open, safe space for participants to feel comfortable enough to share their very personal stories on Zoom, on live video. We did provide the option to not use video during the sessions, but still most did, and which helped with the whole personalizing and trust building. So I think we did our best to create that space, and again, thank you to all who shared. Lisa?
My apologies. I think
sorry.
I didn't speak clearly into the mic, but I was hoping to hear more about the wins or some of the big achievements that you were really happy about.
Oh, okay.
Through the project. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, I do consider that a win, but I guess throwing it across another aspect of our work. So achieving flow in writing. So this is like after the interviews and everything, and once we were creating our chapter, there's two of us with different experiences and different backgrounds, different voices and styles and points of views on some of the stories that were shared with us, but we managed that was a big win, I think, in my opinion, to really have well, basically the words flow out and join together to really if I might say so ourselves, to really sound more like a tale than, I guess, an academic, dry academic text. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
And if I can jump in, I'll add to that as well, because for me, from the perspective of writing, this is my first time to do a project on this scale. And to have had Kinsella as the lead author guiding me through this process has been absolutely amazing, working with her and just being able to. So just like Kinsella, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to movies. I'm not as versed as she is, but I just want to use an analogy using one of my most favorite movies of all time, which is Black Panther. And there is a scene in the second Black Panther, that's right, Casey, when Shuri and I forgot the name of the new Iron Lady, not man, where there were just two Black women vibing off of each other in their amazingness. And for me, that was what this experience has been like. It was speaking with Kinsella, working with these amazing Black individuals in Japan, and just being able to share our stories and open up. And when we made the call for this chapter, for this research, I was thinking maybe we'll get maybe 5 persons interested, maybe maximum 7 or so. We ended up having over 30 persons express an interest. Of the 30, 25 gave us their contact information. Of the 25, 17 became a part of our people. And if we include ourselves, then it was 19 participants overall. And it was humbling. I was floored. I remember texting Kinsella, oh my gosh, you got another person and another person. I was you can see it on my face. I was just amazed, and it touched me to see this outpouring of support, to see this many persons want to tell their stories. And what Kinsella shared about the challenge that we had with including everyone, this is both a challenge and a win, because we had so many persons that we wanted to share everyone's stories, and we made sure that we shared a snip of everybody's stories. But there was just so much that ultimately we had to kind of squeeze it down just to a little, portion of what everyone had to say. And the purpose of this particular volume, this book, it's a collection of different stories from different authors, and the focus is on dialogue as a research tool and how we can use conversations to do qualitative research, basically. And a lot unfolded in our sessions with our participants. We had stories of triumphs, stories of challenges, and it really pointed to the resilience of our participants and also their openness in wanting to share so much with us.
Thank you. That was very enlightening, and how valuable, because I feel like in education, even still, quantitative research is sort of given the top spot in being accepted in articles in some cases. And I think we can shine a light on the kind of research that will drive forward the effects that we really want to see happening. And it must have been very emotional for you as well to hear all these stories and to process them and to hold a space. So I'm sure that it was very appreciated, and I hope to see a lot more. I can't wait to see it when it comes out. I also wanted to mention to our listeners that at the end, we were going to open it up to questions. So if you have a burning question that you want to ask, your time is coming soon. Okay. But a couple more things. The next question that I wanted to ask both of you, and this time I will ask Lisa to address first, and then Kinsella, if you perchance have any role models, who they were and how that's impacted you. Lisa?
So there are lots of women that I look up to, lots of individuals that I look up to, regardless of gender. You are one, Rhea. Kinsella definitely is one. Jose in the audience is one. We also have Avril. We have my wonderful Colette from Jamaica, my fellow Jamaican. When it comes on to my role models, I would say that my family is one of my biggest, the persons who have the biggest impact on me. And I am always just really humbled again by the people that I have supporting me. And for me, my mom, my dad, they are hardworking individuals, very adventurous. My mom has traveled. She traveled from a very young age in her early 20s, a Jamaican woman solo traveling around the world. She's been to different islands in the Caribbean, South America, Central America. She studied Spanish at university, minored in German. She went to Europe. She and my aunt toured Europe, and my aunt was studying in Spain. And so I'm always, I try to be as adventurous as her, though I'm not quite on her level, but I get my sense of adventure from my mom. And when it comes on to internationally known people, Viola Davis for me is one person that I really look up to, and also dancehall queen from Jamaica, Spice. These are two women who are resilient. Again, it's that word, resilience. And they have this indomitable spirit and just belief in themselves that I really find inspiring. How about you, Kinsella?
I have to echo you there with my respect for my mother. She's been my guiding light all through my life, and she, as you said, adventurous. She's a very positive person with a can-do attitude, but it's not just a can-do attitude, it's a can-do anything attitude. So, you want to go study film in the US, you go do that. Yes, and she was my biggest advocate, and for me at that time, yes, she was my only advocate. None of my teachers believed that I could do this big thing, and actually doubted whether it was necessary for me to do this thing. I really believe that her example has been what has gotten me all the way across the world to Japan, and in her presence here is still supporting me in that. I would like to go a little bit nerdy again and mention my second role model, which is a character, Wonder Woman, from way back when, and of course Gal Gadot at the moment. Powerful, loving, wisdom with action. I would like to say a bit ahead of her time. Yeah, I feel that these two women are part of my attitude towards life these days. So.
Oh, that's lovely. I remember watching Wonder Woman in the theater in Korea, the first one, and having some audience members laugh out loud because they thought it was incredulous to see a woman doing certain things like that.
Oh.
And then later having conversations with my students in the class, and I think they thought that it was like all animation or like computer graphic. But I said, you know, that she was actually in the army in Israel, and they hadn't done their army yet, and they're like, oh, really? And then you could see a kind of light go in their eyes. The whole story behind that's really interesting. The next question I wanted to ask is just what's next for you guys? What do you see on the horizon in any aspect in your life, in your work, in research? And I will direct this to Kinsella first, and then after that, the board is open for questions.
Okay, thank you. What is next in my life? Well, I would like to say que sera, sera, and whatever will be, will be. Hopefully for our project, though. Of course, we hope that with the publication of our chapter within this book will not only inspire people already familiar with experiences, expats and experiences of women and non-binary individuals living abroad, but that they will help with critical discussion and awareness within and outside Japan. So that's a hope. Plan-wise, we hope to build upon this project and perhaps shift focus from professional spaces, which was the focus of our current project, to more personal aspects of life in Japan, and include some of the a lot of the material that we didn't use in this next project, and see what we can do with that. So.
That's a tough question, Rhea. I'm always juggling so many things at once. I have one top secret project that I'm currently working on, which I'll reveal later. I told Kinsella, just mention that it is a top secret project. But I would love for us to continue, as Kinsella said, work in this area. And I'm also thinking of other stories that need to be told of Black people's experiences in Asia, in Japan. And I'm also working personally on my book on presentation design that I told my publisher I'll get to her by the end of this month. So TikTok, I'm currently writing, finishing up.
Well, how to entice us by keeping it top secret. Way to go there.
I should say I recently became an Apple teacher, which if anyone here loves and uses a lot of Apple products, is super easy to do. So just throwing that out there as well.
Doesn't surprise me. that you're doing that for some reason. I'd like to take questions from anyone who's listening, either if you would like to unmute your mic and ask directly, or if there's a question you want to have asked on your behalf, you can type it in the chat. So I'll give a minute to see if anything comes up there.
There's already a question, I think.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, I see here. What is an Apple teacher? We want a little bit more and detail on that. And can you please repeat the title of your work? So I guess starting with Apple teacher Lisa, and then someone else said that they were going to ask the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it to Kinsella to answer the second question. So I'll answer the first. So if you use a lot of Apple products as an educator, if you use a lot of Apple products in the classroom, so in my case, I use presentations a lot. I use iMovie and Final Cut Pro to make videos for my students. Well, I did during the pandemic. And I use it also for educational purposes online, otherwise with teaching the Jamaican language, Jamaican Creole. Apple basically has a certification where you earn badges towards using different Apple products. And it's so easy. It truly is. And you get a certification that basically says that, yeah, you know how to use Apple products, and as an educator, you've been using it, and then you join a network of individuals who are also using Apple products for educational purposes, and you can share the things that you've been doing.
I've heard of people being Google lecturers, so I just assumed it was along those lines where you just become savvy at tips and tricks that you can share with others, and that there are training sessions to attend and different levels and accolades. It's kind of like a game where you unlock prizes.
In the case of Apple Teacher, there were no training sessions. You just answer like a handful of questions, and if you get them right, you get the badges and you get the certification. It's really easy. I can't stress that enough.
Easy for you to say, I'm sure.
Easy for anyone who uses Apple. So I recommend it to everyone. If you're an educator and you use Apple, super easy.
Well, I do know that I have gotten some great tips from you about how to do presentations better with the technology that I have. Things that seemed obvious after, but I never would have uncovered. There was a comment, someone's going to pass that on to their huge Apple user husband. And there's a question, you answer questions on Apple Forum. Oh, that's right.
Yes, so basically
It's a
Apple
hot topic.
has an education, and I'll send the link. I'll leave the link in the chat after we're finished. But it's basically Apple has an education or educator part of their website, and in the case of Japan, I don't know about South Korea. Thank you, Jose. There it is. It's all in Japanese. And my Japanese is not great, though I've been here a very long time. And I just used my phone and I held it up with Google Translate to answer the questions. I answered all the questions, but the challenge for me wasn't the questions, it was how well Google was translating the questions. So that was a challenge for me. However, it's basically like a series of like 6 parts. So you using pages, numbers, using iMovie, using Keynote, and you answer questions based on them.
I love it. And you're representing with your authority and your know-how in another way. Could we get perhaps Kinsella, if you have a minute, to type the title of your published work into the chat and maybe repeat it? There were a couple more questions that I'll just bring up for you guys. Okay. One of the questions from Sana is it okay to ask a little bit more about the content of the study, some stories or a common thread, maybe like a personal anecdote, if it's possible? She's asking, or they're asking. And another we have from Wari Muyu. missed the first part of the presentation. So again, when and where will the research be available to read? And when will the book be available? How can we get a copy? So you guys are in demand. They want to know how to get this. So starting one thing at a time. Title, if it's
Okay.
possible. If not, of course, no problem. But is it possible to share an anecdote or a small detail that you picked up? And then where can we find it later?
If it's okay, I'll just start with the title.
Okay.
I'm typing in the chat box now. So
Thank you.
the volume is called Dialogue in Action, Identity, Language, and Power, and it'll be published by Multilingual Matters. At the moment, we are chapter 4. And our chapter is called Black Women's Ibasho, Creating a Space of Belonging in Japan. I haven't typed that yet, but I will. But it is part of a book. So we are part of many authors who are contributing a chapter to this volume. And of course, we can share stories. But this book will be published probably by the end of this year. We are expecting it to be published by the end of this year. We are still in the editing or copy editing process. But yes, so probably the end of the year.
Fantastic.
If I may add.
Yes, please.
Right. So as Kinsella has shared in the chat, Multilingual Matters will be publishing the volume. And we don't yet know the precise date when it will be available. We were told by the end of this year, but it should be available through Multilingual Matters. And that will be the where of how to get your hands on a copy. And both Kinsella and I will be posting about this online when it's actually out. So keep an eye on our Facebook pages for more. I was about to type in the chat, sorry. I just wanted to repeat. So ibasho is an actual Japanese word that I learned thanks to Kinsella. And ibasho means a place of belonging, a place where you belong. And so that's exactly right, Casey. So our chapter focuses on the professional experiences of Black women and non-binary individuals in Japan, and if they were able to find safe spaces, ibashos, in Japan. And we basically spoke with all of our participants and we identified themes. This was Kinsella's, thanks to Kinsella's hard work in all that she has done with the linguistics and also her past experience in research. And so we identified different themes with relating to, I'm so sorry, that actually has another meaning, relating to Black experiences, language use, learning Japanese, cultural, intercultural experiences in Japan as well. Kinsella, would you like to maybe share some of the research questions that we had?
Sure. So we had 3 questions, and just to quickly go through them. So what have our respective journeys in professional spaces, once again, in Japan been for us as Black women and non-binary individuals? How do we maintain our intersectional identities in spaces where we are the minority within the minority? 3, how and where have we found support within social and professional communities in Japan as Black women and non-binary individuals? So these 3 questions have run through our interviews, through our discussion groups, and of course through the actual writing up of our research. So I know that I see in the chat that people really want to hear some of the stories. And I think, Lisa, we are okay to do that, but perhaps in the form of a quote. Is that, yeah, should we do that? Okay, so yes, let me, actually, since I haven't memorized all of the quotes, let me just kind of check my notes for that. So one example of just to give you an idea of the story, one of our participants said that one of the challenges that she faced or that they faced was that no matter what job they had, that Japanese management wouldn't take them seriously unless they had support or approval of one of their white male coworkers. And this was a very, very interesting story that's summarized into this one quote. But yeah, so there are different daily stories from our participants that kind of make up this tapestry of what life is like. Lisa, would you like to comment on this one quote or add your own favorite?
I'd like to add actually, so Casey asked about a surprising discovery that made. And it wasn't so much a discovery, but it was really hearing our participants share these stories, because there really is quite a wide range of experiences here. And it was hearing about the successes and the struggles, you know, the wins and the losses. And one particular part of our study that was quite interesting for me was when we first, in order to organize all of our the information about our participants, we had a survey that we had them fill out. And though we posted in the Black Women in Japan group, we basically expected that our participants would all be women. And so we made the form and we decided to add gender identity to it. How do you identify? And we had 2 participants who actually came out in the process of our collection of data as non-binary, and having them share their stories and basically express that this has been something that they have had difficulty with in the past, that they tried to share with their colleagues, with others in their lives, that they were non-binary, but it just wasn't connecting. It was really great that we could have these amazing persons share with us what that journey had been like for them, and also to be able to honor them. Though we did have to share that we had already made the title of our paper be Black, you know, it was Black. We submitted Black Women's EVA show to the editors. And so we asked if it was okay to keep the title as is, and they expressed consent that was fine. But we made sure that in the paper itself that we shared aspects of their own stories there.
And just to express the balance that we have experienced, not only challenges but also wins, right? And so it's interesting to perhaps share one other story, and the quote is quite long, so I'm just going to summarize it if it's okay. So one of our participants just started a job with zero training, straight from university, and they said that they were given a title and then were expected to perfectly perform. And one of, I think, Lisa's most favorite expressions comes from this story, which is after expected to be perfect after no training, is the backlash that's they received. And at this point, I'm gonna defer to Lisa again, if you would like to add to this and explain.
Sure. So for the Black individuals in the audience, I'm sure you know what we mean by backlash, right? And so it was listening to this particular participant share her experience with being Black in professional spaces, and the kind of razor's edge that we often tend to try to balance on, of how can we be ourselves while also being almost punished for being ourselves, where our Blackness is not seen as the norm. But if we try to be a part of the norm, then we're still not accepted because we're outside. And so hearing about how this particular participant tried to balance what she was experiencing, and ultimately she decided to reach out to other expats in Japan of varying backgrounds and learn about their stories. And then she started a YouTube channel, which is quite successful, I must say, sharing the stories of, well, her own stories of people that she has spoken with, other expats, with also Japanese people in Japan. And so hearing her use what she had experienced and these challenges that and struggles that she was going through, and then turn that into something absolutely amazing, was in and of itself just a wonder to have heard from her firsthand what that was like.
Can we have, if it's possible, have the name of the YouTube channel dropped in the chat if anyone wants to check it out?
Sure.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of nodding along with what you're saying as we go through these stories. Any more stories? Oh, and wonderful commenting. Wonderful on what you have to share. I just wanted to drop into this discussion. So like in Korea, we started the Women and Gender Equality Special Interest Group, but we've also realized that there are problems with our name. So backtracking, I think that some amendments will be made in the future as well. But that part of it was the co-founder of the Special Interest Group at the time, Minji Kim. She was teaching the United Nations sustainability rules in her class and wanted people to know, especially her students, to understand what was happening in the world, and especially in Korea, because in the OECD countries, Korea has been hanging on the biggest gender wage gap award for the last many years. And I believe Japan is usually one off, if I'm not mistaken. So that was part of it as well. Yes, and then adding in all of the intersectionality as well. There's a lot of stories that need to emerge, a lot of voices. Let me check here.
To be heard. Yes.
Any more questions that have come up?
Yeah, somebody asked about. Oh, go ahead.
How many nationalities did you interview? Was one question.
Yes. And
there is a comment that acknowledgement of experiencing some backlash as well. Okay. Over to you.
Do you want me to take this one, Lisa? Yeah. Okay. So so from our participants, yes, we have a lot of multilingual transnationals, countries, specifically not specifically, but the area. So the Caribbean, North America, Africa, the United Kingdom, Europe. This means that we have people who are multilingual. So languages that our participants spoke are, of course, English, French, Spanish, Jamaican Creole, Papiamentu, which is my native language, Japanese, Kikongo, Kikuyu, Kiswahili, Lingala, Luvale, and Nyanja. Sorry.
What did you say your native language was?
Sorry? Once again?
What did you said your native language was something. What was it?
Oh, Papiamentu.
What's that from?
That's from the island of Curacao.
Curacao. I know
yes.
that.
Oh, you do? Oh, excellent.
I got a shameful reason why I know why. It's because I know what blue Curacao is.
I see. Yes.
I know the drink.
The drink.
So that's
yes.
how I know Curacao. Alcohol teaches you things. Isn't that nice?
It does.
Building bridges. Yes. Okay, Curacao. Okay, cool.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes.
What is the name of the again?
Papia Mintu. It's also in the chat.
I typed in the
Okay,
chat.
okay. I want to look that up because yeah, okay, cool. That was my question. Cool.
Oh.
Continue.
Okay. Yeah, there's YouTube videos where you can actually learn the language as well. But yeah. Yeah, so we do have quite a range of nationalities. And just to add, this wasn't asked, but just to add, age group basically ranged from 20s to 40s. Right. Perhaps I could add also that professional and educational specializations are different. So not everyone is an educator. 17% were educators with linguistic related backgrounds. 55% worked as English instructors, whether or not they had the background in it. But this was an interesting discovery. Only one individual worked within their field of expertise, which was human resources. So that was a interesting effect there. Mm-hmm.
I just
Could
want
I
to
ask a
comment.
question?
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm now kind of on the run, and as you can see, multitasking Saturday
The floor
kids
is
club.
yours.
I want to get my question in. So, and I'm so happy that you two have done this research and that you did this event today. I mean, there just really is not enough research out there on, Black women, especially in international contexts. And even though, we are trying, as you know, with my research too, we're trying to get that out there. And I think it's just a really important topic. So thank you so much. I'm just smiling as I listen to you both talk, because it's just so fantastic. And so my question is, so you looked at so many different nationalities, which is wonderful because there's going to be so many differences. And I wonder if there were any differences between the intersectional factors based on where the participants came from. So we know that gender and race and, maybe class or maybe teaching context, working context, may have been a factor, but I wonder if there were any other factors that came into play and whether or not those factors might have been based on nationality. Yeah, that's my question.
Very good question indeed.
Kinsella, if it's okay, I can.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So there were, in terms of intersecting identities, so along with nationality comes access to opportunities. And so Rhea, for instance, posted in one of the Korea TESOL groups about in Korea, there are only certain countries that can actually work in education. And so listening to the stories of one particular participant who was from an African country share that when she and other persons from different African countries applied to jobs, that the pay would actually be lowered, even if they came from a country where English is an official language. Because if we think about certain other countries, for instance, the US, English is not an official language in the US, it's a de facto language in the US. And in countries in African nations where English is official as an official language taught in their education system, when they would apply to jobs, they would be told that they are not native speakers of English and that the pay would actually be lowered once they were hired. And this was, shocking, incensing. It was really just so horrible hearing this and hearing about this particular participant's challenges with being bullied on the job because their pronunciation was constantly challenged in front of, the fact that it was challenged at all, but then challenged while they were actually in the process of teaching a student. So when it came to nationality, there were, for me, the linguistic aspect of it was what stood out to me the most. And also hearing one of our participants who is not a native English speaker having to navigate. And this for me is where the resilience ties in. hearing someone who is from a natively French-speaking nation be able to navigate life in Japan, even amongst other expats, even with us, talking with us, all in English, and just hearing from her what her experiences were having to navigate a predominantly Anglophone or Japanese language speaking environment was really, for me, inspiring to hear. And yeah, those are my immediate thoughts. How about you, Kinsella? Do you have any other anything else that stood out to you relating to nationality?
No, I think that's a very, very good example, and one of the many great stories that we have heard, and that were at least affected me very deeply, since my first language is not English. I'm a native level speaker, but because I'm from a, I guess, European kingdom, yes, the kingdom of the Netherlands, right? That's Curaçao is part of that that sovereignty. So I haven't had this type of challenge as much, I would say. So to hear about this was for me quite profound. And no, to answer your question, no, I don't have any addition to that. I think that is the perfect example.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I think it's so interesting. And I'm sorry, this is my last comment and I'll leave you alone, because I have so many questions and I really would like to talk to you too about your research, because I'm hearing sort of similar sort of themes that came out of my research too. And I would love to talk to you more about that. But I just think it's
We'd love that.
we should definitely, we got to get together, do this. But I really love the fact that you have both intertwined your own stories into this research, because I think that is a very brave thing for a researcher to do. It's much easier in some ways to stand sort of outside of it. It's easier to write about the experiences of other people, but I really commend you for sharing your own journeys, because when a researcher is vulnerable, the kind of research that you get is just so much richer and so much deeper. So wonderful work, ladies, and I can't wait to read it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to quickly add that this is where the focus of the volume on dialogue as a research tool has been really critical, because it was in a lot of these conversations that we were having with our participants that a lot really came out and so much was shared. And there were really heartbreaking stories too, really, really deeply personal things that were shared, including one participant who was actually sexually assaulted. And we had to stop and say, are you okay with, we can take this out. We don't have to include this if this is too much. And the participant was like, no, I want my story to be told. And so we did our best to honor everybody's stories. Colette, yes, we would love to do a volume 2, because again, there was so much vulnerability between us, Kinsella and myself, sharing what we experienced in Japan, the highs, the lows, and also vulnerability from our participants. And we tried our best. We tried so hard to include everybody's stories, and we definitely hope to have a volume 2 someday.
Thank you so much. Just letting you know that we do have flexibility of time as long as the speakers are okay with a little bit of extra time, but it's up to you guys. There are some comments that were dropped in the chat, and I'd like to just bring them up for your attention. Annika asked, was this an experience either of you were looking for or had been thinking about as a project? In other words, a happy incident being in the right place at the right time or not? And a comment from Colette, appreciating the diversity of the backgrounds and experiences participants. Again, affirming the strong rallying for volume 2 to include all the participants who can make it into the current volume. And another question, where I'm throwing them all at you at once, but I can repeat them. Were most of your participants from the Black Women in Japan group from Wairimu? I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong there. So if you want to speak to any of those, and also let me know about time concerns for you as well. We're okay.
So yeah, I'm fine with the time. Yes,
All right.
okay, okay. I'd like to speak to the first one that you mentioned there, the first question. So did we go out looking for this project? Did we already have something in mind? Not really. It really was a happy accident, being in the right place at the right time to just to hear, actually, if I might add, other women. So the editors for our volume are actually women who had this idea of having dialogue and researching and experience and hearing about experiences and sharing those. So that clicked for me, and I thought immediately, well, then what better choice to make than to speak about my own experiences and then hearing about those of others, and that's how that kind of organically grew into the form it has now. Lisa, if you would like to add.
Yes, I'd actually like to say many thanks to Korea T-Sol, because this is how Kinsella and I met.
Yeah.
Rhea and I actually met through JALT, but I got to know more Korea T-Sol persons through Rhea, who invited me to join T-Sol and do presentations. And I met Annika and so many other amazing people. And Kinsella is one of them. We were both, I think Kinsella was a room host for one of the conferences, and we connected that way. And hey, here we are today.
Well, I can just maybe add in how I didn't realize that was how you two met. That's amazing. Basically, I went to a JALT conference and my phone battery was dead upon arrival, and I didn't know how to find my hotel, and I searched for a place to plug it in, found a Starbucks, met Lisa's husband, who was so nice, and he's like, "You've got to meet my wife. We're presenting together." It was love at first sight. Same thing with Kinsella. We sat next to each other in the plenary, didn't we, and started chatting. Just to bring that up, because you never know where, friendship can begin. I think it's good to keep your eyes and ears and hearts open for that. And there were some more comments that came up.
And to answer Waidimu's question, yes, all of our participants came from the call that we made in the Black Women in Japan group.
Thank you. I'd like to read this. There's a rawness and vulnerability of living abroad in a foreign language and a skin that is not a part of the dominant culture. And when you layer on work, it can be doubly difficult. I'm sure some of the stories we dedicate. Thank you, Casey. We appreciate the vulnerability. It takes a lot of strength to share the vulnerability. And another comment, thanking you for a wonderful session. Looking forward to reading your work. And so, anything else you want to add? I'm not sure. Did we speak to the last few questions? I think so.
I just quickly wanted to share. So I was asked to share the YouTube channel of the participant, but I'll need to ask for permission first.
Okay.
If it's though she did use we used pseudonyms for all of our participants. We asked them to choose the pseudonym that they wanted to use. And though this particular participant did use their real name, I do not want to share her information, any further information about her, until we have gotten permission from her to do so, which I prefer to do that, and then maybe I can post it in Cotiso groups. I'm not sure where it would be best, but
well, people can send messages to where the Facebook group was posted, the Women and Gender Equality Special Interest Group, and I can collect anything and forward it onto you guys. Would that be how you prefer, just let me know what is
Sure.
best.
And maybe Kinsella, we could leave our email addresses in the chat. So if anyone would like to
Okay.
reach out to us personally, just send us both an email.
Fantastic.
Let's
Pardon
do
me,
that
I'm
right
losing
now.
my voice.
Oh.
One question that came up is, how do you think your work will be perceived? If you would like to answer that.
Okay. Yes. Whew, that's a deep question. That's also a scary question. I might have mentioned it before, but this volume is actually not just a volume where research is presented. It is also supposed to be a teachable textbook, so something that can be used and people can do some critical thinking and some well, self-reflection, I guess. So we were asked to write 5 critical discussion questions, and so we did, and so we did, and I think that with our actual chapter and with these questions, I think that it would really help readers to, I don't want to say accept, but maybe internalize more what we were trying to express. So do I think that this will be well received? Yes, I'm very hopeful, and I think so. And even in places where perhaps these experiences may seem unrelated, yes, to the general public's experience, I think because of that, it may gather interest, that people may be interested in hearing more about it, and thinking more about it. So that's my hopeful point of view.
Yes, and just to add on to that, for me, one of the biggest things for us when we were writing, and Kinsella spoke about how, you know, we had to fuse our voices, my voice and her voice together to make this paper, to make this chapter happen. It was there were points where we were like, yes, girl, get it, come through, yes, you did it, and parts where we were like, what? Can't believe it happened. And we realized, okay, as writers, we need to tell the stories of these persons, let them tell their stories through these excerpts, through our summary of what they have shared, but not have our voice be the voice of navigating their stories. So for me, it was making sure that we represented everyone's stories as they shared them, and not based on our reactions to their stories, as great or as incensing as they were. And so in terms of the rawness and vulnerability, in terms of just leaving everyone's voices to tell their own stories, I do hope that it will be, and I do believe it will be, but I still hope that it will be well received, and that it will be a great way of documenting and showcasing all of the wonderful things that our participants have done through their own voices.
I absolutely agree. Another comment that came up I'd like to share is there's vulnerability. This is from Catherine, teacher. For people who have been exposed to other cultures and have been living in different countries in the past and coming back to your culture of origin. I have experienced this myself, having been an expat in other countries, and thank you for your hard work. Thank you, Catherine. So as we get closer to our Zoom cut time, because we borrowed this account, I think from here, I would like to give thanks to our speakers and a round of applause. And I'm going to stop the recording and give us just a few minutes of reflection time together. So if everyone would like to give their applause to our speakers, thank you once again for your invaluable contribution and sharing these voices.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.